First things first, I just want to give Alama a shout out for that amazing speech and an amazing poem. The number 4, the number that represents the years we spent together learning, talking, maybe arguing, but most importantly, achieving a task that many considered unattainable. If you multiply 4 by 100, you get 400. For over 400 years in this country, many of our ancestors were deprived of a high school education. Many were even deprived of obtaining an elementary education. They were taught to disregard their dreams of receiving an education, disregard their own identities, and disregard the thought of liberty. Today, we look at the progression centuries later, and we see students from a multitude of backgrounds, races, and identities achieving a near common goal. Today, we are high school graduates. Today, we make our families proud, our ancestors proud, and we show future generations that it is possible to achieve an education and the very things we were systematically denied for centuries. Today doesn't mark an ending, but rather a beginning for us all. Whether we're going to college or doing something else with our lives, we're on the brink of a new beginning, the beginning of adulthood and independence. It would be unfair to be viewed as a representation of our class because I'm not. I'm proud to represent myself and my family. However, my story is only one of hundreds. You all have distinctions and successes that you each represent. What I wish to represent, however, is a person who can inspire our youth to rise against a system that predetermines their failure. My purpose is to acknowledge what others are afraid to acknowledge. Despite the infinite accomplishments over the past 400 years, our Syracuse community is far from idyllic. We are compared to other schools and districts across the country, but we're not like them. We live in the 8th poorest city in the United States, where poverty makes up over 32% of our city. We live in a city with the worst SAT scores in the state. We all live in a city in which we are automatically faced with adversity, whether you choose to accept it or not. These statistics may degrade our schools, or even our city. However, statistics should not and cannot define us individually or collectively.
Yeah!
These statistics moved me as a student, but most importantly, as a student living in Syracuse. I abhorred these statistics because I knew they could be improved. I knew that we as students and as Syracuse residents have the potential to improve these conditions. As a result, I made a commitment to myself and my family to be a student who is willing to overcome the trials and tribulations many falsely assume are my future. I created a goal to acquire higher education by attending a top institution within the United States. Such a goal seemed laughable to many, but the power of determination outweighs all doubt. From my mentor, Mr. James, I learned about the law of attraction. This is the belief that positive or negative thoughts bring positive or negative experiences into a person's life. This law enabled me to view life in 2 perspectives. A perspective in which I succumb to the meager statistics that life is thrown at me, or one in which I shatter low expectations and create a new one. I chose the second option. I realized that a lack of dedication is an insult to those who believe in me. Despite growing up in a city too often defined by its negative statistics, I'll be attending Columbia University, where only 5% are.
Yeah! That boy cheesing.
The law of attraction worked for me, and it allowed me to remain positive at times of negativity. The essence of what makes me who I am can never be diminished by the mainstream narrative. I will continue to embrace my full identity rather than fall victim to who I'm stereotyped to be. I'm the valedictorian of the class, however. I don't wish to be remembered for that. I want to be remembered as a person who used his voice to inspire the youth to follow their dreams, regardless of what society throws at them. I want to be the motivation that allows our district and our city to improve. We should no longer settle for meager statistics. We should rise against them. We should support our students. We should support our staff. I no longer want this district to be remembered for its negativity. I want it to be remembered for the success stories it's helped produce. I do not feel like I achieved what I achieved because I'm special. I was able to achieve what I've done by railing against what so many falsely think we are. For anyone here today who aspires to do anything in the world, remember that whatever life throws at you, nothing is impossible. When people think of the city of Syracuse, impossible is the normality and success is a fallacy. I wish to inspire you all to remove the prefix "im" and maintain the root of possibility. This isn't a story in which I wish to speak to you specifically about myself, but rather a story in which I hope to inspire. Because like Malcolm, we too can persevere by any means. Like Angelo, we must not be defeated by our defeats. And like King, we too can have a dream. But we don't have to let our dreams remain dreams. We can transform them into realities. Education wasn't intended for everyone. In fact, it was limited to only a select few. Despite facing centuries of academic censorship, many of our ancestors fought to access it. We are the products of both the negatives and positives of history. And because of that, it is important that we prevent the repetition of injustice. We are beyond capable of achievement, and more importantly, we are beyond capable of changing the world. What we accomplished these 4 years has transcended beyond the unjust scrutiny we would have endured for over 4 centuries. We were once seeds of potential in our first year, but these 4 years allowed us to blossom into a multi-ethnic collective of students achieving against all odds. None of my achievements would have been possible without the support of my mother, who's right over there. She sacrificed so much. Also, I'd like to thank my father for always being there for me. They came from Sudan, a country nowhere near the United States, completely different, and they were forced to assimilate, all for the sake of their children. So I can't thank you guys enough for that. Thank you. I'd like to thank my younger sister, Minna, for always pushing me to be a better brother and, more importantly, a better person. I know you do great things in the future. I'd like to thank Upper Bound for believing in me. Without them, my success wouldn't have been possible. I'd like to thank the ITC staff and teachers for coping with the students and having unyielding dedication. You guys don't get paid enough for the amount of work you put in. I'd like to thank my friends, Daquan, Alejandro, Micah, all these guys.
Yeah, boy!
For always sticking by my side, having faith in me from the beginning. I wish nothing but the best for you all. Thank you to everyone who came for us today. I appreciate you all for taking the time out of your days for us. I dedicate this speech to my family, my parents, and the families currently in Sudan who are being silenced and tormented. Thank you all for listening.